Hello everybody and welcome back to the geometry unit. Now we're moving on into chapter 10 because we're going to kind of start focusing on what we traditionally think about for geometry, area and perimeter, especially area. We know that perimeter is the distance around it. We've talked about that several times this year, and so we're going to focus in really on area. And in this lesson we're going to start about talking about area of parallelograms. All right, now, a couple key things we need to remember when we're talking about this. When we're talking about a parallelogram, there's two important things that we're going to be looking for in their area. One, we're going to look for the base of the parallelogram, which is really the length of any of its sides, and then the height of the parallelogram. And it's the perpendicular distance between the side whose length is the base and the opposite side. So perpendicular means something meets at a right angle. So what we're really saying is the area of a parallelogram equals base times height. And the base and height must form a right angle. So in a true parallelogram, that height will be shown either inside the parallelogram like this, or it could also be shown like this. They could show it out here. There's your height, and then your base is over here, just from here to here, okay? Most of what you'll see it like this. But the height, when you have the slanted sides, the height is not the slanted side. It has to form a right angle, and you see that marked right here. So that's what you're looking for. So that's going to be key. And so area of a parallelogram, base times height. And the height and the base have to form a right angle. Get used to that because that's going to become really important in majority of the areas that we are working with in the coming sections. Height and base have to form a right angle. So get used to that. Okay, let's do a couple examples. So, first one, if you are given a base and a height, you need to find the area. So let's look here. We have a parallelogram. It has a base of 12 millimeters and a height of 8 millimeters. And it can be very helpful if you label stuff. So if you sketch a picture, then label what's the height and the base, or write down somewhere for yourself that, okay, my base is 12, my height is 8. That way then when you look at your formula here, you know exactly what you need to plug in and where you need to plug it in. Labeling things, keeping things organized will really help you out as you solve. So you plug in, base was 12, height was 8, multiply 96. Remember, with area, we're multiplying two units together. So we say it's whatever the units are squared. In this case, 96 square millimeters, or 96, some people like to write it this way, that's what you'll see me do a lot, millimeters squared. Now, let's try a couple examples here. We'll do 1 and 2 together, and then I'm going to have you try 3 and 4. You can pause the video then and do it. All right, so let's try this. You notice your parallelogram, you're told the base and the height. So you just have to find the area. Area equals base times height, 8 times 9, 72 feet squared. Base is 11, height is 5, so our area is 11 times 5, which is 55 yards squared. Now pause the video and you guys try number 3 and number 4. Then restart it when you're done and check your answers. All right, so number 3, base was 3 centimeters, height 10 centimeters. 3 times 10 equals 30 centimeters squared. Make sure you're putting units on your answers, okay? Number 4, base 8 inches, height 3 inches. So we have 8 times 3, which is 24 inches squared. Okay, so that's, if you're given a base and a height, you multiply them together to find the area. But now what happens if you're given the area and one of the dimensions? How do you figure it out? How do you figure out the other one? So that's what we're doing here, finding an unknown dimension, either the base or the height. So let's say you had a parallelogram with an area of 56 square meters and a base of 7 meters. What's the height? Well, let's fill in the formula, or let's write out the formula. Area equals base times height. Fill in what you have. You have an area and you have a base. 56 equals 7 times something. So some of you are going to say, okay, I know what that is. I know, and I say 7 times what equals 56? Oh yeah, 8. Others of you, I'll tell you, whatever you're missing, you take the area divided by the amount that you have. So 56 divided by 7 is your height. In other words, your height is 8 meters. Now, when you're finding one dimension, do not square your answer. The only area is squared units. Okay, so let's take a look at some more examples of this. All right, let's try number 5. The area of a parallelogram is 77 square feet and the height is 7 feet. What's the length of the base? So if we have area equals base times height, let's plug in what we have. We have 77. There we go. So we know what we're working on. We have 77 equals, we need to figure out, we don't know the base, and we know the height is 7. So our base is going to equal our area divided by 7, which means it equals 11 feet. Not feet squared, just feet, because we're going with one of the dimensions that we're multiplying together. Okay, you guys pause the video, try number 6, then start it up again and see how you did. Okay, so number 6 said the area of a parallelogram is 35 square millimeters and the length is 5 millimeters. What's the height? Okay, write down your formula. Area equals base times height. Plug in what you have. We have 35 equals 5 times h. So we're going to take and say our h is equal to our area divided by 5, which means h equals 7 millimeters. All right, now the last thing we're going to look at is example 3 here, estimating some area. Basically what they're doing is dropping a parallelogram over a space and saying, oh, okay, the shape is roughly a parallelogram. What's the area? In this case, they're looking at a patch of dead grass. Well, that's exciting. And they have the sketch. And they're saying, estimate the area that needs to be resodded. So replanted, take the dead grass out, put new grass in that's going to grow. First of all, you notice it's a sketch. So they have things in inches. 1/2 inch for the base. So here's my base. Here's my height, 1.25 inches. But I'm guessing your patch of grass is not that small, because you wouldn't even notice that kind of patch of dead grass. Really, this is a sketch that represents a larger area, where it says 1 inch represents 20 feet. So the first thing we need to do is get ourselves into the correct units for our answer. So we're going to use our scale, 1 inch equals 20 feet, and get our units converted. So in our base, 1 inch, 20 feet. Here's what we have, 1/2 inch over, we don't know how many feet. So we can cross multiply, right? Or we could also, that's probably going to be the best way to go. We're going to do what we call cross multiplying. So we multiply that way, and we multiply that way across the equal sign. Kind of looks like the butterfly method, but it's not. 1 times b is b. 20 times 1/2 is 10. So we know this is going to be 10 feet for the base, which you could look at and say, oh, it's 1/2 inch, so yeah, 1/2 of 20 is 10. And then for the height, similar, we're going to cross multiply. Well, 1h, and then 20 times 1.25, 25 feet. So now we can find the area of our parallelogram. We can go 20 times 25, or 10 times 25, sorry, 10 times 25, base and height, and we get 250. So we'd say the area of the patch of dead grass is about 250 square feet. Or you might write it 250 feet squared. Okay, now let's try that down here. Example 7, or number 7 for example 3. Parallelogram to be used to approximate the shape of a flower garden. I don't have any parallelogram flower gardens, but maybe you do at your house. Okay, we're going to use the sketch to estimate the area of the garden. Now, the garden is not in centimeters. It's actually in, the actual measurements are meters. So first, let's turn 2 centimeters into however many meters we need. So we're going to do height first, just because that's what I talked about first. So 1 centimeter over 8 meters equals 2 centimeters over however many meters we need. Let's call it h. So we'll have 1 times h equals 8 times 2, which is 16 meters. Then our base, same deal. 1 centimeter over 8 meters equals 3 centimeters over b. So we'll have b equals 8 times 3. So b equals 24. Now we're not done. We now have to estimate. We have to do our area. Area equals base times height. 24 times 16. What is 24 times 16? Calculate, calculate, calculate. You should get 384 meters squared. Okay. So, area of a parallelogram, base times height. Your base and your height have to form a right angle. Happy practicing.